Hi, it's Alan from Crashtest Security. In this video, I will explain the criticality of SSL and TLS security misconfiguration, joint attack approaches, and the essential steps to mitigate them. So let's get started. Cryptographic protocols are crucial elements of communication networks, since they enable machines to communicate privately by establishing secure connections. Secure Sockets Layer (SSL) and Transport Layer Security (TLS) protocols encrypt network connections today, enabling data privacy and integrity by ensuring data in transit is difficult to read. However, just like any technology, these protocols have flaws and vulnerabilities. SSL security misconfiguration is one of a tech stack's most commonly exploited aspects. This led to the earlier versions of SSL being deprecated, since there were known security misconfiguration vulnerabilities that could become targets for threat vectors. Similarly, known vulnerabilities in more comprehensive versions of TLS protocols get exploited by malicious attackers. Most TLS and SSL security misconfigurations occur on account of the lack of security best practices when setting up security measures for application servers. This allows threat vectors to identify weak points and gain access to system data or target core components of the tech stack. Combined with this is the scenario where the growth of applications complexity and security misconfigurations become harder to pinpoint, allowing hackers to escalate attacks without being traced. TLS-SSL misconfigurations are a hacker's typical targets, since they are known and easily detected. Since security teams require time to track vectors in complex communication systems, attack vectors often have the time to exploit such vulnerabilities using privilege escalation. Such misconfigurations are often caused by unintentional mistakes while configuring a tech stack. Some of these mistakes include the following: retaining default accounts and passwords. Every software program or device comes with default credentials for initial access that require authentication. Attackers use many methods, including brute force attacks, to access such programs' devices using vulnerable account credentials and then escalate privileges to gain further ground into the tech stack. As part of a regular security exercise, these credentials are recommended to be changed immediately after initial access, retired after prolonged lack of use, and frequently changed to avoid misuse. Revealing too much information on error messages. Some web servers have default configurations, including verbose error messages revealing sensitive system data. This information, such as detailed stack traces, can be exploited by attackers looking for root-level system access. Hackers also hunt for specific vulnerabilities based on component versions and software dependencies that enable vertical and horizontal escalations to gain unauthorized access within an entire application system. Keeping unnecessary features active. Having unnecessary components, features, and code samples active is prone to application vulnerability. Some features that must be checked when assessing for vulnerabilities include unnecessary open ports, unused but running services, accessible leftover pages, unused accounts, enabling debugging in production environments. Most software teams isolate their production and development environment allowing developers to test features before they go live. Production instances that allow debugging are susceptible to attacks, which could lead an attacker to access sensitive information, including source code or sensitive customer information. As a best practice, debugging should only be enabled in the development clusters to help refine the software by analyzing helpful insights based on usage and traffic. Other common mistakes that software organizations should look out for include the following: accessible, unprotected files and directories, improper configuration of cloud systems, old or outdated software versions. Threat vectors take advantage of these mistakes to target system security vulnerabilities. The following section discusses some well-known TLS-SSL security misconfigurations and their prevention strategies. The padding oracle on downgraded legacy encryption attack takes advantage of servers that still use SSL 3.0 encryption. This protocol allows for compatibility with legacy systems and exposes the system to a block padding-related vulnerability. Attackers use this vulnerability to initiate a man-in-the-middle attack by pretending to be a web server until the client agrees to use an SSL 3.0 encryption to connect with them. The attacker then retrieves their desired information using automated tools that modify padding blocks and wait for the server's response. Some practices to prevent poodle attacks include completely disabling SSL 3.0, upgrading the client to the latest version, enabling TLS fallback (SCSV), The browser exploit against TLS SSL attack allows hackers to decrypt secure data by exploiting a vulnerability in cipher blockchaining mode in TLS 1.0. An attack orchestrates a man-in-the-middle attack to inject packets into the SSL stream, then compares this message with the encrypted message to guess an initialization vector. Beast attacks can be prevented by using TLS versions 1.1 and above. Attackers can use the compression ratio info leak made easy attack to reconstruct cookie values using feedback from the web server, allowing them to capture encrypted messages. This is achieved by replacing byte sequences in a compression algorithm. Crime attacks can be prevented by using the latest browser versions. Hackers commonly use browser reconnaissance and exfiltration via adaptive compression of hypertext to target HTTP compression. The attacker uses a man-in-the-middle attack to connect the client's browser to a third-party website with TLS enabled. They can continuously monitor traffic between the web server and client browsers. Some ways to prevent breach attacks include disabling HTTP compression, enforcing HTTP strict transport security, enabling secure channels for TLS, separating user input from secrets. The OpenSol library provides a heartbeat extension to keep a connection alive, so long as the communicating parties exist. Heartbleed is a misconfiguration of this extension that would leak unencrypted data from the server memory. Attackers can achieve this by sending false data lengths through the client, and the server responds by sending the data received by the client, or some random data from its memory that meets the length specified by the client. Heartbleed attacks can be prevented by using an updated version of OpenSol. Renegotiation allows two parties to begin a new handshake inside an existing negotiation to request new cryptographic keys or cipher suites. Hackers can utilize the renegotiation process to initiate distributed denial of service attacks by requesting numerous simultaneous handshakes. This causes a denial of service on the application server's interface. Renegotiation can be prevented by using the latest TLS version and ensuring secure renegotiation. Other common misconfigurations that can be exploited include CCS injections. Attackers use malicious hosts to intercept and decrypt secured data by forcing the client to use weak SSL keys. Ticketbolt, where the TLS stack invalidates encryption by exposing various bytes of the request to the attacker. SSL drown. Attackers leverage weakened encryption to expose session keys for captured handshakes. SSL robot allows attackers to break encryption confidentiality by infiltrating certain implementations of cipher suites. Scan for SSL TLS misconfiguration vulnerabilities, like security headers, TLS key size, and more, and mitigation approaches here. Security misconfiguration-led attacks can take advantage of both general lacks of knowledge and human error. Software organizations can implement avoidance and preventive measures by knowing the common mistakes and vulnerabilities that attackers use. Best practices to prevent security misconfiguration. Remove unused features. Besides bogging down the system, unused features make an application susceptible to attacks. It is best only to enable features as needed. Perform regular updates. Using the most updated version of software helps to protect devices and applications from malware that the security team may not have identified. Automate vulnerability scanning. Take advantage of automation tools and software to search for unnecessary features, unused default accounts, and misconfigurations. Disable debugging in production environments. The configuration of all debugging features on prod instances should be disabled unless they are needed in exceptional circumstances. Deactivate the listing of directories. Ensure that all files and folders have the proper permissions, then restrict access so users can only view the files for which they have the permissions. Limit accounts with administrative rights. By default, admin rights should be disabled for every user and only changed when necessary. This policy should be reviewed frequently, keeping in line with the least privileges. Some of the more common ways that servers get compromised include the following: using self-signed certificates, not checking the validity of certificates, using outdated versions of OpenSol, using default settings, setting up incorrect trust chains, incorrectly configured TLS SSL configuration. Specific mitigations for misconfiguration. While misconfigurations are easy to detect and exploit, most are well known and documented in the standards-based Vulnerability Management Data Repository. The database also includes mitigations for various misconfiguration exploits. Some of these include hardening TLS session resumption, enabling perfect forward secrecy, Configuring the SSL cipher order. Using certificate revocation lists, CRLs, and the Online Certificate Status Protocol OCSP. Enabling missing SSL certificate authority authorization, CIA records. How do I know if my application has these vulnerabilities? You could run vulnerability scans like this SSL TLS scanner to ensure that your application does not contain these vulnerabilities. For example, Crashtest Security Suite offers an automated vulnerability scanning solution that tests for susceptible entry points and misconfigured protocols within an application workflow. It's important to understand that organizations can prepare and prevent privilege escalation attacks by using various best practices and tools. Misconfigurations allow attackers access to personal data, with over 70% of compromised cloud data in 2017 resulting from open security vulnerabilities. In addition, Gartner predicts that through 2025, 99% of cloud security failures will be the customer's fault. This exposes the criticality of improperly configured SSL TLS security and highlights that most security attacks are avoidable. Try Crashtest Security today to discover how it integrates into your development stack for efficient, automated vulnerability scanning. The trial is free. Also, subscribe to the Crashtest Security Channel to get more information about the most significant web security threats, their prevention, and how to use the Crashtest Security Suite. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.